Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this hearing of the Subcommittee on Water, Oceans, and Wildlife. We'll now come to order. And under Committee Rule 4F, any opening statements, oral opening statements of this hearing are limited to the chairman, the ranking member, the vice chair, and the vice ranking member. This will allow us to hear from our witnesses sooner and help members keep their schedules. Therefore, I ask unanimous consent that all other members' opening statements be made part of the hearing record if they're submitted to the clerk by 5 p.m. today or the close of the hearing, whichever comes first. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this important hearing to examine the many threats facing one of the most endangered marine mammals in the world, the North American right whale, North Atlantic right whale. There are less than 420 right whales remaining. That's fewer right whales in existence than members of Congress. If more is not done to save this iconic species, scientists predict it will go extinct in the next few decades. According to NOAA Fisheries, in order to maintain a sustainable right whale population, no more than one right whale per year can be killed by human causes. And as Dr. Krause has pointed out in his written testimony, that number has been exceeded every single year for the last 20 years. No wonder these whales are in such dire straits. 2017 was a particularly bad year for them. There were 17 deaths and no new calves. While we've seen positive news recently, including 7 new calves spotted this year, there are ongoing threats, including fishing gear entanglements and accidental ship strikes. And additionally, the science shows that climate change may be shifting the food source northward, which means the whales will be moving further into areas with shipping lanes and lobster traps. So today we'll be talking about several promising solutions that we can act on quickly, including ropeless technology for lobster traps, vessel speed reductions, zooplankton monitoring, coordination with Canada, and more. In addition to this technological innovation and coordination, it's critical to move legislation like the bipartisan Save Right Whales Act, which was just reintroduced by my colleague Seth Moulton from Massachusetts. This bill would provide financial resources for research to develop and test technologies to reduce entanglements and vessel collisions to help the right whale. However, in addition to entanglements and ship strikes, a new issue further endangers the North Atlantic right whale. In yet another handout to the oil and gas industry, the Trump administration is now actively threatening the long-term survival of these whales by opening up the Atlantic coast to seismic airgun blasting and oil and gas exploration activities. As we've consistently seen with other decisions from the administration, this completely undermines our foundational environmental laws like the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the ESA. Seismic airguns are harmful to many forms of marine life, ranging from plankton, the base of the ocean food web, to fish and right whales. For right whales and other marine mammals, sound is critical for communication, feeding, navigation, and survival. But just last year, NOAA Fisheries issued incidental harassment authorizations under the Marine Mammal Protection Act to allow 5 companies to use seismic airgun blasting to survey the Atlantic continental shelf for oil and gas. These airgun blasts occur as often as every 10 seconds for months at a time, creating noise that is louder than all but military-grade explosives. Thanks to NOAA issuing these authorizations, seismic companies plan to fire air guns a combined 5 million times over the course of their testing. I also want to point out several major problems with these authorizations, considering the near-extinct status of this species. First, even though 5 different companies requested permits to conduct surveys within similar timeframes, similar locations, NOAA Fisheries did not consider the cumulative impacts here. The fact that when combined with each other and other activities, there is a vast increase in ocean noise. Instead, the agency analyzed the impacts of each survey in isolation, ignoring the fact that the ocean's already a very loud place and set to become 5 million blasts louder under these authorizations. Second, NOAA Fisheries' proposed mitigation is to prohibit blasting within 90 kilometers of the coast between November and April. But we know that right whales, including mothers and calves, the most vulnerable of the species, are present in this area nearly year-round, not just between November and April. We also know that sound travels great distances underwater, and a small buffer like this is unlikely to shield these whales completely from the negative impacts of that seismic testing. And third, Under the Obama administration, BOEM rejected the seismic permit applications for testing in the Atlantic because of the impacts on marine life, including the right whale. They stated, quote, "The value of obtaining geophysical information from the new seismic airgun surveys in the Atlantic does not outweigh the potential risks of those surveys, acoustic pulse impacts on marine life." New science decisions have changed. It could start imminently. Air blasts within 30 days of BOEM's issuing of the permit. Seismic blasts could make the difference in recovery and extinction. Given the many threats facing efforts underway to save them, for NOAA fisheries to allow to occur. There are technologies and innovations to help the right. Forward to hearing more about that today. It's critical that we don't add new things to just make the oil industry. And with that, I look forward to this, and I now invite the ranking of his remarks.